Hello everyone, my name is Josh and that is me. And today we're doing an 100% speedrun of the Pikmin 4 demo. Now I've been a fan of the Pikmin series for a while now, and I've really been wanting to play another Pikmin game ever since I finished Pikmin 3 nearly 10 years ago. Now Pikmin in and of itself has always been about doing things quickly and managing time, so I found it only fitting that I would try to do an 100% speedrun of this demo. So the run starts off with skipping a lot of cutscenes, and we're eventually introduced to the one and only Captain Olimar, alongside some Pikmin, and apparently he has a dog now. Now the dog is actually a really big new feature of the game, as we are first introduced to a new function called Rush, where the dog essentially rushes forward, which allows you to break some pots along with some other features that we will soon see. Inside the pots there are some very important red Pikmin that we can call to our side with our whistle. Now for this next part, the game just wants us to familiarize ourselves with some controls, so we go around and collect some Pikmin who all end up riding on the dog, which is very nice. This little beginning living room area is actually quite big, and there's a fair bit of Pikmin scattered around. But, sort of on the main path, there's already about 40 or so Pikmin, which is plenty to deal with what is coming up. And we also use the rush function to knock down some objects and get Pikmin down from this pillow. Eventually though, we climb up to this area, and we have to fight this porcupine looking enemy. This fight is actually pretty easy, as you just have to wait for him to attack and lose all of his quills on one side of his body, and then just hit him with your rush attack, which will latch all of your Pikmin onto him as well. I actually ended up getting a really bad angle on him, so I just have to toss my Pikmin onto him instead. Not that clean of a fight, but oh well, he still went down pretty easily. So that wraps up the first part of the game, and we have a couple more cutscenes where essentially what happens is Olimar ends up getting lost on the planet and sends up a rescue team. However, the rescue team that went looking after him also got lost, so now we have to rescue the rescue team. Does that make sense? Now in the series first, we actually get to customize our character, but I end up just doing the default settings and didn't bother changing my name, so yeah, that's me. We then end up on this planet as well, and we are introduced to our own dog. His name is Ochi, which apparently I've been reading wrong this whole time, as I've always called him Odachi for some reason. We need Ochi to pull out this plant from the pot for us, so we can progress, and this all reminds me of pulling out weeds in the garden in real life, which I've done a fair bit recently. Anyways, we encounter our first member of the rescue team, Colin, who gets our comms back up and running. So Colin joins us for a bit, and we then encounter a pile of dirt that we get Ochi to dig up. This leads to our first encounter with caves, which are very similar to their counterparts way back in Pikmin 2. In this cave, Ochi detects a signal from another rescue team member, and it turns out to be the captain of the team, Shepard, who is unfortunately in need of some help. For this, I like to just send out Ochi after one of the enemies, and then just punch the other two myself, as they only have like 1 HP, so they die to anything. We then charge Ochi towards the pole and save the captain. Eventually, we make it back to the surface and see that this is where the ship ended up. Unfortunately, we can't leave just yet because apparently the fuel's ship is powered by treasure? So we need to collect some treasure to power the ship. Here, we are also reintroduced to the Pikmin, but first we have to dig up the red onion thing and bring it back to base. So I just sent Ochi to deal with it, and now I just have to simply wait. Now that we have access to the red Pikmin and their onion, it's worth mentioning that Ochi can carry 3 times that of a normal Pikmin, so it's better to send him to get treasure rather than pellet posies. Eventually, we are able to get a squad up with a bunch of Pikmin, so I send them to get this bell-looking treasure. Then I take the remaining Pikmin and Ochi to bring back the familiar-looking treasure. Once the Game Boy Advance is brought back, it'll bring us to the end of the first day. Starting off on day 2, we get a brief notification on screen that lays out the rules for the demo. We need to collect 1500 Sparklium, which is essentially the value that treasure has once it's been carried back to the ship. This 1500 amount is more important later on, and I'll bring it up later again. So we begin the day by getting all 13 Pikmin out of the onion, and then quickly running over to the pellet posies, just to bring my numbers of reds up slightly. Now something new to this game is that there is currently a cap on how many Pikmin can be on the field at once. Right now, the limit is set to 20, so all excess Pikmin will just remain in the onion, but later on, we will eventually be able to increase this cap. But anyways, we talk to Colin to begin the day proper, and this is where the demo really picks up, as he will take us to the sun-speckled terrace. To begin this day, I just send all 20 of my Pikmin to this pile of raw material, which will be important for later. We then approach this wall, and our first real enemy, but really these guys aren't that bad. After breaking down the wall, I head over to this area on the left, and I take on this enemy called the Fiery Blowhawk. And once again, this will be important for later on. Then I head back to where the wall is, open up some of these eggs, which give us some nectar, which will flower up our Pikmin, making them stronger. With all this being done, I think it's a good time to head into this cave. So after breaking some pots for some more raw material, I toss some Pikmin up this ledge to grab that treasure, and proceed forward to where we come across this enemy, who I assume is just a frosty blowhog? I don't know, he's a new enemy. Anyways, beating him gave us access to new Pikmin, and these guys are ice Pikmin, and are low-key broken. As we go further into the cave, there's some more pots to break open, and a paper bag too that'll make carrying treasure back to the ship much easier. Also, right here is an onion that we can dig up and bring back to the ship, and this will be helpful because it will allow us to increase the number of Pikmin that we can have out on the surface. Anyways, we come across this next obstacle called Hydro Jelly, which the ice Pikmin can freeze, and then allows the other Pikmin to destroy them. This is the first showcase of how good ice Pikmin are in this game, but with that broken, we are pretty much free to just carry back everything in this cave, like this tube of paint, as well as this rescue officer. Ultimately, I could have done this quicker and more efficiently, but I wanted to flower my ice Pikmin, so whatever. With the rescue officer brought back, we learn that he's the scientist Russ, who is also going to be important later, but for now, we just exit the cave with our new ice friends in tow. So upon exiting the cave, we make our way back to the area I cleared up and move my base to this new location, which will allow us to transfer things much more easily. We then make our way to this big enemy called a Bulborb, and it is a Pikmin staple. However, the ice Pikmin once again showcase how good they are if they're able to freeze him, which honestly makes him and most enemies in this demo a complete joke. Continuing forward, there's another pile of raw material that I quickly grab and deal with another Bulborb who is pretty easy, even though we don't have our full squad of Pikmin with us. But here's something quite interesting, because he actually dropped a cool item, I guess you would say. This red looking nectar is actually called Ultra Spicy Spray, or as I more commonly call it, a red potion. I didn't expect to get this so early on, but it's a very important later in the game, so I'll go over what it does then. Anyways, these next tasks include using Ochi to knock down this pocket watch looking treasure from the wall, and then send Ochi to dig up this potted plant, and then send the remaining Pikmin to bust down this wall. Once I get past this wall, there's another cave entrance to dig up here. Unfortunately, I will need some more Pikmin to deal with the task up here, but thankfully base is nearby, so I can use the shortcut that Ochi dug up to make it back to where I left off. So we first start by taking down this paper bag, which will give us another shortcut back to base, and then carry back these big old binoculars. And then we can head into the next cave, the Crackling Cauldron. So this cave is basically an introduction to the fire hazard in the game, as shown by the fiery blowhog, which would normally hurt Ochi, the player, and Pikmin. However, red Pikmin are immune to fire, which is a very important tip for this game. Additionally though, this cave also introduces us to yellow Pikmin. So now we have to be slightly more careful going forward, as yellow Pikmin are not immune to fire. However, a perk that they have over red Pikmin is that they're able to be thrown higher, which is helpful for getting down this treasure. I then grab this pile of raw materials, and then meet everyone back at base. Now, the next thing to note about yellow Pikmin is that they're immune to electricity, so they are the ones who can deal with this electric gate. Normally, if we use other Pikmin on this gate, they will be paralyzed on the floor and ultimately die, so it's a good thing we have some yellow Pikmin now. With that gate being taken care of, just a quick dash towards the next entrance to go deeper into the cave. Now on the final sub-level here, we have to deal with a lot more fire hazards. So yeah, this game is getting you used to using multiple types of Pikmin for specific tasks. Use the reds to deal with fire, and use the yellows to deal with electricity. Simple. But of course, we can't forget about the raw material. And sneaking by this area here, will take us down this shortcut and towards a dirt wall that I can just leave a couple guys with to deal with. After picking up some guys at base, the yellows finish up this electric gate, which opens up this next area, which the reds are used to deal with these fire generators, and then we use the yellow Pikmin to reach the castaway. So yeah, we're really getting used to using the Pikmin in tandem with one another to complete certain tasks. Anyways, in this new section there's a couple of things for us to deal with, like this one really annoying enemy who keeps flipping over and squishes Pikmin. And apparently we get this castaway back, which turns out to be Schnawaus for the planet Sigurway? Man, I don't know. Well anyways, back onto this enemy. Even if this enemy is about to flatten Pikmin, and its HP reaches 0, it will still crush them. So yeah, kind of annoying. Be wary of this guy. But anyways, by defeating him, we unlock a new base location, which will help carrying back treasure much faster, like these two treasures here. And finally, onto this last section, where we have to deal with the floor and all the fire geysers again. Unfortunately, I did step a bit too close to my yellow Pikmin, which sets him on fire, but a simple whistle will put it out, and it's important to stay on top of these sort of things, because Pikmin will die otherwise if they're not whistled in time. Anyways, with the fire all taken care of, it allows us to dig up this final treasure, which leads me to the final perk of yellow Pikmin, and it's that they are exceptional diggers. The speed at which they dig up items is actually incredibly fast, which makes getting back this treasure a sweet potato, I think? Yeah, honestly, I have no idea what treasure this is because I don't know much food. It makes getting back whatever treasure this is much quicker, and thus completing this cave. Now once back on the surface, I say screw the ice Pikmin and just give me yellows and reds for this next part. So we first start by setting some yellows to break down this electric gate, and then quickly run over to this area and use the yellow's high throw to reach up and dig this other floor lick is what it's called. Then we make our way over to this area and deal with a couple dwarf bulborbs, send Ochi to break down a couple of pots, and pull down this thing which honestly is just for a shortcut, but honestly I don't really need it. And then we bring back this other treasure just in time for the floor lick to be brought back to base, meaning we increase our field Pikmin numbers once again. Anyways, heading over here, I sent some yellows to break down this treasure, but then I kinda wish I had some more reds with me because this fire blowhog gave me a lot more trouble than I would like to admit. But eventually, we were able to sneak this treasure by him and make our way back to base. And with our upgraded squad, we head into this next area, which is behind the electric gate, which houses a couple things for us to deal with, like this paper bag we can lower, and these pots that Ochi can break down to unlock some more treasure. And finally, we can deal with this bulborb that is the guardian to our next base location. Now here I actually used that ultra spicy spray that I got earlier in the day. Now what this does is it gives all the Pikmin on our field an insane buff, which allows us to shred through this bulborb's health. Now what this red potion specifically does is 1. Instantly flowers all of our Pikmin, and then 2. It gives them a big speed bonus so they can run faster, and 3. They increase their attack speed, which allows them to attack insanely fast and technically dig faster too, which makes this really a good choice for combat in dealing with enemies. Anyways, with all of that dealt with, and now that the base is in a different location, it makes carrying things back much easier. Such as after lowering the paper bag, we discover the yellow onion. Bringing this back will allow us to sprout yellow Pikmin, as well as currently, if things like corpses or pelipos are brought back to base, they all go towards increasing the red numbers, even if we have yellow Pikmin carrying them. So bringing back this yellow onion will allow us to increase our yellow Pikmin numbers. Once that yellow onion is brought back, we head up to this next area, deal with a couple of these sheer grub enemies, and then finally this bulborb, who is honestly a lot closer to eating Pikmin than I would like to admit. But with that, we are running out of time and day, as it is almost sundown, as you can see in the top left corner, as well as the overall color tone of the environment. So it gives us this message on screen, saying that Pikmin who are not in our squad will be left behind at night, so it's important to round up all the Pikmin, or just chill in the safety of base. But with that bulborb being brought back, there's not really much I want to do / can do today with the time we have left, so I decided to just end the day early in the pause menu. We end our day of exploration at 30% of the area explored, but that number will definitely be going up the next day. So starting up day 3 back at base camp, Ochi is noticeably bigger, which leads us to a new feature if we talk to Commander Shepard. Shepard will give us the option to give upgrades to Ochi that will help benefit us in our journey in exchange for puppy points, which we get by rescuing castaways. To start off, I grabbed some upgrades in buff and eventually super buff so that Ochi can now carry 20 times that of a regular Pikmin. After that, I make my way over to Russ, because he also tells us about some upgrades that he can give to us in exchange for raw materials. For upgrades here, I choose the Charging Horn, which will help us in combat, the Treasure Gauge to find treasure, and then the Scorch Guard as well as the Thermal Defense, which makes the player immune to fire and frost respectively. And with all those preparations out of the way, we are free to talk to Colin once again and return to the Sun-Speckled Terrace. Starting off, I decide to grab 30 reds and 10 yellows and make our way back to where we fought that bulborb at the end of the last day. However, now that it's day 3, we can progress further because as we approach this broken bridge, we now unlock the feature to use our raw material to, I guess, get refined material, which is then used to fix this broken bridge. And we also make use of that new Charging Horn, as we can now simply charge all of our Pikmin onto a certain task instead of just throwing them one by one. Once we are able to cross a newly repaired bridge, I make use of our 10 yellows to bring down this other bridge so that we can cross and get this big old pumpkin. And because we have upgraded Ochi, he can now carry back the treasure with some help of some yellows. Meanwhile, we encounter this familiar looking life form alongside another dog, but they quickly escape into this cave. We'll catch back up later with them soon, but first I want to walk a bit behind the cave entrance and discover this blue onion. I specifically chose reds to carry at the back because along the path there's a fire blowhog and I just don't want my Pikmin to burn while carrying it back. However, the reds aren't able to carry it back all the way because there's a body of water in their way. But ultimately, that's fine because I just wanted them to bring it closer to the shore and I'll carry it back the rest of the way later. Now with that pumpkin being brought back, we've recovered all 1500 sparkling we need to complete the demo. However, the demo won't cut our day short, so it will end once the day ends as well. So for now, we jump into this cave and pursue that space dog. Now this cave is called the Trial Run and is actually a pretty unique cave. These missions are called Dandori Battle and has us facing off against this mysterious life form and his dog. The goal here is to carry back more than your opponent, and ideally get a platinum medal. We need to score 100 points or more than our opponents in order to get the platinum medal. Now generally speaking, carrying back items will reward the same amount of points as their weight. So these dwarf bulborbs, for example, require 3 Pikmin to carry them, and will reward us with 3 points. For these battles, a strategy that I like to practice is build up Pikmin numbers as quickly as possible, and then play pretty aggressive, and try to bring back treasure on your opponent's side of the field. This essentially takes away points from your opponent, and gives you plus points because it prevents your opponent from easily grabbing it, if that makes sense. So right here, you see me trying to be aggressive with my opponent and grab this, Pikmin, I think it is, before he can. Anyways, another thing about these Dandori battles is that Pikmin you sprout from carrying back corpses and stuff won't be planted in the onion, and will be instantly ready for battle. However, all the Pikmin that are sprouted here unfortunately can't come back with us to the surface. Anyways, we're doing pretty good in this battle because it's pretty easy because, you know, it's the first one in the game. But we're going to be in a pretty good position because we were able to win the carrying battle for this fruit because we have more Pikmin on it than he does. Now with all the close treasure being brought back, I decided to work on these dirt walls so that I can get the golden nuggets behind them and grab some extra points. Additionally, over time, enemies and treasure will respawn, so that gives us an extra opportunity to get more points. But yeah, things are going pretty smoothly. We're ahead by a bunch of points, but we're still not at that 100. So I tried to be a bit more aggressive and steal away some more treasure from my opponent, by just having more Pikmin on it than he does. And when time winds down, we're actually pretty close to, well, not losing, but getting that platinum rank because we're only ahead by 103 points. But no matter, that marks off our first Dandori battle. Now emerging from that cave, I want to grab out 20 of both reds and yellows. Our reward for completing that Dandori battle is this Castaway who looks a bit different than what we're used to. But oh well, we'll bring him back to base and deal with that at a later time. Even when we bring them back to base, their ID cards still give us no helpful information in identifying who they are. So I guess it's a problem for future us then. Anyways, moving forward, another perk of having Big Ochi is that we're now able to ride him. I don't actually think this gives us a speed bonus, as I'm pretty sure Ochi and the player move at the same speed, but this is helpful in bringing all the Pikmin together due to them all hanging on the back of Ochi. Anyways, I want to move the location of the base again, so that it'll be easier to construct this bridge, so we send the Pikmin to deal with that, and then while they're doing that, I hop up on Ochi and get up to this cave entrance on top of this ledge. Another perk about riding Ochi is having the ability to jump up ledges, which honestly in the Pikmin game feels kinda weird. But anyways, we bring back the strawberry, dig up some raw material, and then head into this next cave, the Industrial Maze. Heading into the Industrial Maze, this is low-key my least favorite cave in the entire demo. We start off separate from Ochi. The game introduces us to a new feature of switching between the captain and Ochi, because if we try to progress without him, we get a bit stuck because of these moving conveyor belts. This cave doesn't really emphasize playing as Ochi too much, as we only need him to hit the button so that the conveyor belt direction changes. But even when he's trying to go opposite direction of the conveyor belt, he can just use Rush to make it to the other side, once again reuniting with the captain. Together with Ochi, I break down these pots and start carrying back treasure. I then hop up on this geyser that brings us to this area where the buttons were, and where Ochi initially was. While I was plucking these yellows, Colin tells us that some of the Pikmin are having a hard time carrying back the treasure, and that's because the conveyor belts are going in the wrong direction. So by tossing a Pikmin onto the button, it'll switch the directions and let the Pikmin return back to base. This is honestly what makes this cave so disliked for me, because honestly, it just becomes a hassle constantly trying to switch the directions over and over again, and just takes up way too much time. But we bring back all the treasure and then head on to the next sub-level. This next sub-level is also pretty annoying, because there are these gates everywhere that block our path, so I first head across this moving platform to hit the button and lower the gates. Also here we encounter a new enemy called the Honey Wisp, and they're not really enemies because they're pretty peaceful and just carry eggs, and by throwing a Pikmin at them, they drop their eggs and vanish. Luckily, I was able to get a red potion from that Honey Wisp, which will come in handy later. Additionally, I also grab a few more yellows planted in the ground here, and make our way over to the other side of the cave. First, we gotta lower the paper bag, then destroy this electric gate, and finally carry back the treasure behind the paper bag. Once we get to the area behind the electric gate, we are able to break open these pots, and move our base over here so that it'll be easier to carry back the Castaway and the nearby treasure buried in the ground. So with all that being brought back, that's everything in this cave, so we are free to leave. Now for this next area I want to tackle, we'll still stick with 20 of each yellows and reds, and head over to where our original landing site was. Because now that we can jump, we can make our way up here, and use Ochi's rush ability to knock down the treasure. I'm pretty sure yellow Pikmin can reach us too, but honestly I think this is faster, and I want to get this back as fast as possible, because there's another cave entrance right here. Right now we're essentially running from cave to cave in this area, just to get through things as quick as possible. So just as the baseball is brought back, we head into the next cave, the Hectic Hollows, which actually see us using Ice Pikmin again. Starting off this cave, we actually go flying out of the gates, breaking down all these mushrooms and working on this climbing wall. Additionally, there's also a small body of water that we would normally be unable to cross, but thanks to ice Pikmin, they're able to use their bodies to freeze it so we can walk across it. This is another perk of ice Pikmin which will come in very handy soon. Basically, the bigger the body of water, the more ice Pikmin you will need to freeze it. But anyways, by climbing up here, we are able to pluck up more ice Pikmin just as the climbing wall is finished. Which leaves us with enough Pikmin to once again cross the frozen water and grab up this treasure here. Now because of this climbing wall, we were able to climb up to this new area with our Pikmin, but unfortunately Oshi can't climb with us, so he'll have to wait down there until we can find a way up for him. In this above area, we'll quickly deal with this Bulborb, as well as some Hydro Jellies, and then come across more Ice Pikmin fighting these dwarf Bulborbs, which once defeated will further increase our ice numbers. By lowering the paper bag, we were able to create a new path for Ochi to climb up, so we go ahead and call him over. Now inside this Hydro Jelly we were able to grab a treasure. Behind this gate we get some more raw material, and finally, behind these pots will be an entrance to the next sub-level. Before we head out, I want to grab some of this nectar to flower up my guys, and give those Pikmin some time to carry everything back. On the next sub-level there are some more pots, and this enemy who essentially just evaporated because when hit with Ochi's charge attack, all the Pikmin latch onto it and start attacking, so that guy did not stand a chance. And again, by some stroke of luck, it was able to drop another red potion. Anyways, there's also this other Hydro Jelly that we can break down, as well as a castaway up on this ledge that Uchi can charge into and bring the castaway down. And with that Hydro Jelly broken, we're able to hop up here and grab this final treasure, just in time for the castaway to be brought back, which turns out to be one of our crew members, Dingo! So with that treasure being brought back, we are cleared to break open these pots and return to the surface with a lot more ice Pikmin in our squad. Starting off our next task, I want to make use of all these ice Pikmin. So I grab 30 ice Pikmin and 10 yellows. So we then head across this bridge that we just constructed, and then over here to the water and freeze it with all 30 of our ice Pikmin, and then move the base here as well. So with this giant pond being frozen, we still have some time before it melts, even after calling back all of our ice Pikmin. As we head across the water, we see the blue onion I left here not too long ago. Now I'm pretty sure we actually left it on this ledge closer to the water, but the game just put it back up on the ledge to put in a less awkward position. Now I recalled all the ice Pikmin because this onion is actually a pretty heavy object. This part, however, I have always struggled with, because what is supposed to happen is the ices are supposed to bring it down the ledge, and then I call them back to refreeze the lake. However, there is always something that goes wrong here. Like right here, basically everything goes wrong. Because one ice Pikmin got stuck carrying back the blue onion, and I accidentally threw a yellow Pikmin into the lake. Fortunately though, I was able to call him back before he drowned. And then this stupid ice Pikmin who got stuck in the plant called a blistering spiderwort. And honestly, it's always a nightmare dealing with this part because mainly of the new locking on feature. Like honestly, just give me a weird mode and a sensor bar and none of this would happen. Anyways, the lake is eventually frozen over again, and the blue onion safely brought back to base and sprouts us a new blue Pikmin. Now this next part is also a bit difficult with what I want to accomplish. I start off by switching up teams and grabbing 38 yellows and leaving the other 2 slots for the blue Pikmin. So I need one more pellet posy to get another blue Pikmin, and unfortunately I didn't get it when it was blue, so I won't get an extra Pikmin for it, but that's fine. So with our squad of 38 yellows and 2 blues, I assigned the yellows to go with Ochi and the blues to stay with me. I then head into the water and assign 1 blue Pikmin on each stack of the raw material. Now I can imagine that you all understand the perk of blue Pikmin, which is that they have the ability to breathe underwater. And apparently the player can breathe underwater too because I guess of their spacesuit. Switching back to Ochi, I want him to bring all the yellows all the way up to this area and make its way over to this bridge. And just to speed things up, I decided to use one of my red potions just to flower up all the Pikmin and increase their movement speed as well. Once we are at this bridge, we once again need to build it. And because it's a big bridge, we're gonna need 39 raw material, which is a perfect amount for my 38 yellows and Ochi himself. Unfortunately, Ochi doesn't have the charge whistle, so I'm gonna have to sit here and just mash A and throw all 38 Pikmin. Switching back to myself, the blue Pikmin just about finished carrying back all these 2 piles of raw material, so now I can quickly make my way back to Ochi and the bridge just as they finish construction. Now as we cross the bridge, we begin to see the treasure gauge going wild even though there is no treasure to be seen. However, due to my insane gamer skills, and because I've played this demo many times, I know that there is a buried treasure here, which is where the yellows come into play with their expertise in digging. As that potato was dug up, I sent some yellows to bring that back and make my way up this path, defeating some dwarf bulborbs along the way. Once we make it to the top of the hill, we see another cave entrance that I unfortunately have to wait outside of because I want the Pikmin to carry back the potato first before heading into it. In hindsight, I probably should have put more Pikmin carrying back the potato instead of just 7 because it would have made it a lot faster, but oh well. Anyways, with that treasure being brought back, we can head into the Aquiferous Summit. This cave is pretty basic, as we start off by freezing the small body of water, as well as hydro jelly to get some ice Pikmin trapped inside. Then heading across to this other area is some more hydro jelly, some more raw material, as well as some ice Pikmin frozen in the water. So once I finish carrying back all of this, I make sure to call back these ice Pikmin as well as the others, because I'm not 100% sure, but I think if they're frozen in the water, they won't come onto the next sub-level. Anyways, moving on to the next sub-level, we start off by dealing with some hydro jelly to get some more ice Pikmin, and fire hazards to move towards this block that can be pushed down so that Pikmin can get back up here. That's especially helpful to build the slope, the gold nuggets, and the treasure. While that is all being dealt with, you can head down here to get rid of a couple more hydro jellies, and eventually make our way to this button that will lower the gates, making it possible to bring back a paper crane. There is also another egg here, which I get extremely lucky again, and get another red potion. It feels like this game is just handing them out like candy. So with all those hydro jellies broken, and after collecting the rest of the Pikmin back at base, we can head up here and break this final hydro jelly to free the castaway and complete the cave. This next section is low-key a bit tricky, so I start off with 20 reds and 20 ices. Upon exiting the cave, we see that we are not in the same place as we entered. Just like the very first cave we went into, this cave has a separate exit and entrance. Anyways, we first gotta get the paper bag down and call the base over here. As we continue forwards, we see a familiar enemy. Similar to how we dealt with this guy with Olimar way back at the start, we first gotta let him attack us with his quills to explode his weak spot. Thankfully, I got another red potion, so we can just use it to charge all the Pikmin onto its back without chi. The ice Pikmin do their job by freezing it, and the red Pikmin do their job by laying down all the damage. With the red potion buff, we are able to take down this enemy before it can thaw out, revealing another treasure. And because this was like a mini-boss enemy, it will drop a lot of nectar and stuff when it's defeated while frozen. So I send a couple of Pikmin to carry back the treasure, head down here to start digging up this other treasure, then hop up here to grab this big dragon fruit treasure. With all that being carried back to the new base up there, we can head down here and make our way toward the old base location, ready to move to it once the last treasure is brought back. Now the time remaining in the day is very limited, so we need to hurry up with this final objective. So with the base being brought over, I was supposed to get all 20 of my ice Pikmin back. However, we only have 19, and upon checking the map, sure enough, one got stuck behind. Now this is a minor inconvenience as I need exactly 20 for this next part, so I need to run back to the onion, put it right away, in exchange for another ice. So after that minor setback, we can run over to the small pond over here, use our 20 ice Pikmin to freeze it over, and with the water frozen over, we can hop up here with Ochi and encounter another suspicious creature. Similar to the red one before it, it hops into the cave, so we chase after it. Now, unlike the other cave, this one is kinda similar, but pretty unique as well. Once again, the Pikmin and the treasure here are not real, so anything we sprout and bring back here would not return to the surface with us. Anyways, for these new missions, they're all about speed. We need to bring back all the treasure and all the corpses within a certain amount of time. Simple as that. Starting off, we take out a Dwarf Borbub and flower our guys, and then there are also some hidden Pikmin behind the tall grass. And having high numbers here is very important to deal with this Bulborb, which actually got a bit too close for comfort. We got some more Dwarf Borbubs here, as well as some eggs with nectar. Additionally, we also need to use Ochi here to dig up this plant, so it can create a shortcut directly back to base. We then deal with this charging enemy once again, who is easily taken out with our massive squad. There's also this dirt wall we can break down, as well as some pots up here. And with that, that's pretty much all the obstacles to deal with in this whole level. So now we're free to bring everything back to base. For these missions, I typically just go through it once, collect all the Pikmin, and deal with all the enemies. Then, I go back around a second time, making my rounds to carry back as much as I can, and then making appropriate trips back to base whenever I need more Pikmin. These missions also typically have gold nugget piles, so it's recommended to at least get a couple Pikmin working on it passively throughout the challenge. But yeah, this is obviously an introduction to these types of challenges, so this one is very simple and straightforward. But despite that, these missions are actually really fun and always enjoyable. And with that being said and done, all the treasure and all the corpses are brought back, so we finish up here with a platinum rank. Upon leaving the cave, we are rewarded with this pink fellow's body that we can return back to the base. With that cave finished, we have even less time left in the day, so we really gotta rush here. Taking out 20 ice and 20 whatever, so they just need to be flowers. We freeze over the water again and then focus all of our attention on bringing this person back to base. Thankfully, the base is right over here, so we carry them back to base with ample time. And with that, we have all the treasure in the sun-speckled terrace, and we have 100% of the area. So yeah, not only did we complete this demo, we basically completed everything you can do within the demo. We were able to rescue 5 castaways, carry back nearly 2,000 sparklium worth of treasure, and complete the remaining 70% of the area within just one day. So with that being said, the demo was completed, and now that leaves us with the full game, which will be coming as soon as possible to the channel. At the time of recording this, I have actually completed the entire game at this point, so it all comes down to just editing it down. I hope I will be able to release it soon, so look forward to that. This style of scripted commentary over the gameplay won't continue for the entire game, as I decide to do some live commentary in the future recordings. I mainly just decided to do post commentary so I could stay silent and focus on playing this game quickly, and because I was still unsure of how I would want to cover this game at the time of recording it. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this first episode of Pikmin 4, and please look forward to the upcoming ones. Bye for now.